I'm calling 911 right now. You're terrorizing our community with that grill. That's what this HOA Karen screamed at me while I was just peacefully grilling on my deck at the lake cabin. Yep, she literally called the cops on my burgers. But here's the wild part. Just 3 minutes after that ridiculous emergency call, I found something that flipped the entire situation and got her whole HOA kicked off my property for good. Before you hear the full story, please tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you care about real stories like this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. What I discovered didn't just protect my right to barbecue. It exposed years of lies and fake authority, and it freed the entire neighborhood from a bogus HOA dictatorship. The revenge? Absolutely perfect. Tell me in the comments where you're watching this epic takedown. Let me set the scene. It's a peaceful Saturday afternoon at my little place by Lake Morrison. Nothing fancy, just a small one-bedroom cabin I bought a few years ago to escape the madness of city life. The sun's shining, there's a light breeze that smells like pine trees, and I've got a couple of beautiful ribeyes marinated and ready for the grill. I fire up the charcoal, because it has to be charcoal, come on, and I'm thinking this is it. The perfect afternoon. No traffic, no emails, no one breathing down my neck. Just me, my grill, and nature. The cabin's modest, a little kitchen, a small deck, but the view of the lake is magic, and it's far enough from the next house that I never imagined I'd be bothering anyone. About 20 minutes into grilling, just as the fat starts sizzling and filling the air with that glorious smoky smell, I hear footsteps on the gravel. Heavy, angry footsteps. And that's when I meet Priscilla Sterling. Or, as we'll call her from here on out, Karen. She's marching toward me like she's heading into battle, clipboard in hand, because of course, khaki pants, a logo polo shirt, and that familiar scowl of someone who's never been told no. "Excuse me," she shouts from a good 20 feet away. Not a hello, not a friendly wave, just pure hostility. I look up from the grill, spatula in hand, genuinely confused. "Hey there," I say. "Beautiful day, huh?" She plants herself 5 feet from my deck, hands on her hips, and it feels like you could slice the tension with a steak knife. "Are you the owner of this property?" she demands. "Yeah, that's me. I'm Ethan." I try to stay friendly. She's not interested. "I'm Priscilla Sterling, president of the Lakeview Estates Homeowners Association," she says, like she's announcing royalty. "And I need to inform you that what you're doing is in direct violation of our community standards." I blink. I'm grilling burgers. She starts reading from her clipboard like she's quoting a law book. "You're emitting excessive smoke without a permit, generating noise pollution, and degrading air quality in our pristine lakefront community." I look down at my little Weber grill, then back at her. "Ma'am, with all due respect, this is my land. I'm cooking lunch." That's when her face turns red. She grips the clipboard like it's a weapon and snaps. "Oh, so you think you're special? You think the rules don't apply to you?" I'm standing there, stunned, spatula dripping burger juice. "What rules? This is my property. It's our community, our standards. You can't just do whatever you want." And she's literally screaming. "About hamburgers." I try to de-escalate. "Look, Mrs. Sterling, I get that you care about the neighborhood, but maybe we can figure something out? I could move the grill farther away, or..." "No," she interrupts. "You don't get to negotiate with community safety." Community safety? From a cheeseburger? I try one last time. "What if I just finish this one meal, and we can talk later?" But no, she pulls out her phone. "Fine. If you won't listen to reason, maybe the authorities will." And she actually calls 911. Yes, I need to report a public safety violation. A man is creating hazardous smoke conditions and refusing to comply with regulations. I watch her pace and ran into the phone, stunned. He's operating an unauthorized fire source, contaminating the air, being uncooperative, potentially dangerous. Because I'm grilling a burger. She hangs up and turns to me with this smug look like she just saved the planet. "The police are on their way. Maybe they can teach you what being a good neighbor means." I just stand there, watching my poor steak overcook, trying to process what just happened. "You call the cops on my lunch?" "I call the police on your violation of community standards." And then, I hear it. Sirens. She really did it. There are actual police officers responding to a grill complaint. I stay calm. "Ma'am, when the police get here, what exactly are you going to tell them?" She tightens her grip on that clipboard and declares, I'm going to tell them you're conducting illegal barbecue operations and creating public smoke terrorism. Yep, smoke terrorism. Those were her exact words. The sirens grow louder. My peaceful Saturday has officially turned into a full-blown farce. Just then, a patrol car pulls into the driveway. Officer Marcus Thompson steps out. Mid-40s, looks like he's broken up more bar fights than he can count, and already has that why am I here look on his face. Afternoon, folks. Got a call about a safety violation. He eyes the grill, sees the light smoke, raises an eyebrow. Karen jumps in. Officer, thank goodness you're here. This man is violating fire codes and polluting the air. He glances from her to me. Sir, is that a Weber? Yes, officer. I'm just making burgers. He nods slowly, then asks Karen, Ma'am, you called 911 because he's violating HOA regulations? She waves her clipboard like it's a badge. Yes. Unauthorized smoke emissions. Noise. Violations. Officer Marcus looks at her, then at me, then back at her, and something in his cop brain clicks. Ma'am, can I see your HOA documentation? She flips through the clipboard, flustered. Well, I don't carry all the documents, but I'm the HOA president, and this is Lakeview Estates. What's the exact jurisdiction of your HOA? He asks. Her voice wavers. The entire lakefront community? He pulls out his phone. That's interesting, because county records show something else. Silence. Karen's fidgeting now. He scrolls. Finally, he looks up. Ma'am, are you absolutely certain this property is under your HOA's authority? Of course. I've been president for 3 years. And you've been enforcing no-grill policies? Among other things. We have very strict guidelines. Officer Marcus puts away his phone. Ma'am, I've patrolled this area for 15 years. I know the lines and legal jurisdictions, and this lakefront stretch was never part of any HOA. Silence. You could hear a fish jump in the lake. Karen stammers, that's impossible. No, it's not. When a property joins an HOA, there's legal paperwork, recorded deeds. This property? It was never incorporated. You have zero authority here. I try not to smile, but I can't help it. So, I can grill here. Officer Marcus turns to me. Sir, you could open a barbecue restaurant here, and there's nothing she could do except ask nicely. Karen's face is a tornado of disbelief and panic. But we've all been, ma'am. What you've been doing is giving strong opinions and hoping others listen. But you have no legal standing. And if you keep acting like you do, you might be looking at harassment or impersonating a public official. And then, he drops the line I'll never forget. You can call yourself the Queen of England, but that doesn't make this Buckingham Palace. I lost it. Laughed so hard I nearly dropped my spatula. Karen just stood there, silent, crushed by the weight of reality. Officer Marcus finished. To clarify, he's legally grilling food on his private property. You called 911 over the smell. That's not illegal. But pretending to have authority, you don't? That is a problem. She mumbled something and shuffled off, in complete shame. And just like that, I went back to my steak. Justice was served. And soon, so were the burgers. Karen looks crushed, completely gutted. You can see it all over her face. Her entire identity, the whole persona she's built around being the boss of the neighborhood, has just been shattered by something she clearly didn't expect. Actual facts and real legal authority. But there's something else in her eyes, too. Something harder to pin down. It's not just disbelief. It's that stubborn, clenched jaw kind of defiance. The kind that says this isn't over. Not yet. Not even close. Officer Marcus tips his hat at me, tells me to enjoy my barbecue, and drives off, leaving me alone on my deck with Karen, who's still holding that clipboard like it might somehow summon her lost authority back from the ashes. We stand there in silence for what feels like forever. Finally, she speaks, and her voice isn't loud or angry this time. It's low but firm. This isn't over. Then she turns and walks away, and I'm left standing there with the uncomfortable realization that I may have just made the most dedicated enemy of my life over a hamburger. Still, at least now I know, without a doubt, that I have every right to grill on my own property, whenever and however I want. But here's the real question. What does someone like Karen do when they realize their whole self-proclaimed empire is built on sand? Do they admit defeat, or do they go full steam ahead into delusion? Drop a comment if you think she took the L or doubled down. Because you'd think, after being calmly told by a uniformed police officer that she has absolutely no authority, any normal person might pause, maybe reflect, even reconsider their approach. But Karen isn't any normal person. Karen's the type of person who's wrapped her whole sense of self around being the local enforcer. She's decided she's in charge, and reality isn't going to get in the way of that. "Officer," she says, her voice sharp now, "I don't know where you're getting your information, but I assure you, I am the duly elected president of this community's homeowners association. I have documentation. I have meeting minutes. I have, ma'am." Officer Marcus cuts in gently. "Do you have the legal incorporation papers? The officially filed bylaws? Modified property deeds?" Karen's eyes blink rapidly. "Well, those are kept by our secretary-treasurer person." "And who would that be?" Margaret Hensley. She lives over on Elm Street." Officer Marcus writes it down. "Got it. So Ms. Hensley has all the official documentation that proves your HOA has authority over this specific property?" Karen straightens up. "Yes, absolutely. I'm watching this whole thing unfold, and honestly, it's fascinating. Because it's becoming very obvious that Karen has never actually seen any legal paperwork. She's just been acting on assumption, and no one's ever questioned it." Officer Marcus nods slowly. "All right, ma'am. I'll definitely be following up with Ms. Hensley. But until I can verify legal authority, you need to understand, you do not have any say over what this gentleman does on his private land." And that's when Karen snaps. Her face twists, and her voice rises. "This is ridiculous. I've been managing this community for years. I've hosted meetings. I've sent newsletters. I've enforced the standards. You can't just walk in here and say I don't exist." "I'm not saying you don't exist, ma'am." Officer Marcus replies, still calm. "I'm saying you don't have legal jurisdiction." Karen whips around and points at me, eyes wide and wild. "And you think you can just ignore community standards? You think you can do whatever you want without caring about your neighbors?" I'm still standing there, spatula in hand, probably with overcooked burgers now, trying to grasp the fact that this woman has built an entire fantasy world where she believes she's some sort of elected official. "Ma'am," I say, "I'm literally just trying to cook lunch. On my own property." "Thought I was in charge," she spits. "I am in charge. I organize the 4th of July barbecue. I coordinate the Christmas light displays. I make sure the yards are up to standard." Officer Marcus is jotting notes, and I can see it. He's trying not to laugh. "Ma'am," he says, "planning community events doesn't give you legal power over someone's private property. That just makes you a well-organized neighbor." And the look on her face when he says that, priceless. It's like someone just told her that all the monopoly money she's been hoarding is actually worthless. She starts rummaging through her clipboard in pure desperation. "I have proof. I have documentation. Look," she starts waving papers around like they're magic scrolls. Here's the meeting minutes from our last HOA gathering." Officer Marcus takes one of the sheets and reads it. His eyebrows rise. "Ma'am, this is a printed email from you, inviting 5 people to a community standard discussion in your living room." "It was an official meeting," she snaps. "With 5 people. In your living room," he repeats. Karen fumbles for another paper. "Here, community guidelines." Officer Marcus takes a glance and stifles a smirk. "This appears to be a list of your personal preferences, typed in Microsoft Word. No loud music after 9:00 p.m. No dogs off leashes. No grilling on weekends." Officer Marcus reads the list, then looks up at Karen. "Ma'am, these aren't laws. They're suggestions. Community standards." Karen stiffens. "According to who? Did the county approve these? Were they voted on by the property owners? Are they filed anywhere official?" Her voice is getting higher, faster, more desperate by the second. "We don't need government approval," she snaps. "We're self-governing." Officer Marcus takes a slow breath and switches to that calm, firm tone cops use when someone's digging themselves into a hole. Ma'am, you can't self-govern other people's private property. That's not how property law works. At this point, I can't help but speak up. So let me get this straight, I say. You've been going around telling people what they can and can't do on their own land based on your personal preferences? Karen spins around to face me like I just insulted her entire lineage. Not personal preferences, community standards, maintaining property values, being a good neighbor. And who made you the judge of what makes a good neighbor? I ask. I'm the president, she snaps. Of what? Officer Marcus and I ask in unison. Karen throws her hands up in pure frustration. Of this community, I was elected. Officer Marcus flips open his notebook. Elected by whom? When? By the residents who care about this neighborhood, she fires back. How many people voted? He presses gently. Karen falters. Well, it wasn't a formal election. It was more like a general consensus. Consensus of how many people? Officer Marcus asks. The ones who attended the meetings. Which was how many, exactly, he asks again. Karen pauses, then mutters, sometimes 3, sometimes 5. Out of how many total property owners in the area you say you represent? She swallows. I don't know the exact number. Officer Marcus closes his notebook with a sigh. Ma'am, I think what happened here is that you organized a few informal gatherings. A couple neighbors humored your suggestions, and you took that as a mandate to start acting like you had actual legal authority. The silence that follows is thick. You could feel the weight of it. Karen's just standing there, clipboard sagging in her hands like it suddenly weighs 100 pounds. She looks like someone just told her Santa Claus isn't real. But I've worked so hard to maintain community standards, she whispers. And I'm sure that's appreciated. Officer Marcus replies gently. But unless these property owners specifically agreed to give you authority over their land, and unless that agreement was formally documented and filed, you're just a neighbor with opinions. And for a second, I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. Then I remember she called the police on my lunch. So what happens now? I ask. Officer Marcus turns to both of us. Now, ma'am, you're going to stop telling people what they can and can't do on their property, unless they ask for your input. And sir, you're going to finish cooking your burgers and enjoy your afternoon. Karen opens her mouth to protest, but Officer Marcus holds up a hand. One more thing. If you keep harassing this man, or any other resident, by pretending to have authority you don't, that could count as criminal harassment. Do you understand? Karen nods, but I can see her wheels turning. She's not letting this go. Not even close. Officer Marcus gives me a polite nod, gets into his cruiser, and pulls away. And just like that, it feels like the dust is settling after a small emotional explosion. Karen stays where she is, staring at me for a long, uncomfortable moment, clipboard clutched to her chest like it might protect her from reality. She's clearly reeling, trying to make sense of how her world just got flipped upside down in under 20 minutes. And I'm realizing something important. Admitting she was wrong? That's not something Karen knows how to do. So did she finally give up and leave me in peace? Drop a comment if you think Karen backed off or doubled down. Because here's the truth. Most people, when a cop politely explains how property law works, accept it and move on. But Karen? Karen doesn't do move on. She does denial. Rewrites the script in her head. A few minutes after Officer Marcus drives away, I turn back to the grill, hoping I can still salvage the steaks. But before I can flip a single burger, I hear it. Karen, clearing her throat behind me. I turn. She's still standing there, clipboard hugged to her chest like a bulletproof vest. But now, there's something different in her eyes, something sharper, determined, almost manic. This isn't over, she says. Excuse me. I said this isn't over. She takes a step forward. That officer didn't know what he was talking about. I've managed this community for years, and I won't let one confused cop and one selfish neighbor tear it all down. I blink. Ma'am, he literally looked up the county records on his phone. Legal records can be wrong, she says. Bureaucrats make mistakes. I know this community. I know what protects property values. I know what keeps the peace. Then she turns to leave, but not before twisting the knife. You think you won something today? She calls over her shoulder. You think you can just ignore community standards and do whatever you want? We'll see about that. And with that, she storms off, leaving me standing there with a spatula in my hand, wondering if I just made the most relentless enemy of my life over a cheeseburger. Spoiler alert, I did. The next week, my phone rings off the hook. Not from Karen, of course. She's smarter than that after the police warning. But suddenly, it's Margaret from the Lake View Community Standards Committee. Then Bob from Neighborhood Watch. Then Patricia from the Lake Morrison Property Values Protection Group. All these people I've never met, suddenly oh so concerned about unauthorized recreational fire usage, smoke emissions, and community compliance. The calls follow the same script. Polite, vague concern followed by a suggestion that we work together to find a solution. Translation: Karen's behind this. She's mobilized every busybody within a 5-mile radius to make my life miserable. But here's the thing. Karen made one massive mistake. She assumed I'd roll over, that I'd cave to the pressure just to make the phone calls stop. What she didn't expect was that telling me I can't do something on my own land without any real authority would actually light a fire in me. Now, I need to confess something. I'm not exactly a guy who likes conflict. I return my shopping carts. I don't speed. I say bless you when strangers sneeze. I'm basically the human version of vanilla ice cream. Inoffensive, low maintenance. But the second someone tries to tell me I can't grill a burger on my own deck, especially someone without the right to do so, that's when something primal kicks in. Something that says, oh, you want to play games? Let's play games. So I began keeping a record. Every phone call, every unexpected knock from a concerned neighbor, every envelope that showed up bearing the words community standards on the return address. And as I kept track, it started to become clear. Karen hadn't just convinced herself she had authority. She'd built an entire network of people who truly believed they had a say in what others could do with their own property. It was like she'd formed her own little kingdom of overzealous neighbors, each convinced they were some kind of deputy. Take Margaret Hensley, for example. Karen's so-called secretary-treasurer. Turns out she's a retired school teacher who simply takes notes at their informal coffee meetups. Bob from Neighborhood Watch? He's a guy with a police scanner and a badge he printed at home, acting like it gives him some kind of legal power. And Patricia, from the Property Values Protection Group? She's just a real estate agent who hands out business cards at Karen's living room meetings. But here's where it gets interesting. None of these people actually know each other well. Karen had been positioning herself as the central pillar of this whole fake structure, telling each group that the others were official and aligned under her made-up authority. So I decided to test something. I started calling them back. Hi, Margaret. This is Ethan from Lakeside Drive. Got your message about the Community Standards Committee. Just wanted to request your bylaws and incorporation documents before I attend any meetings. There was a pause. Bylaws? Yeah, the official documents showing your committee's legal standing. Oh, I'll have to get back to you on that. She never did. I called Bob next. Hey, Bob. Thanks for reaching out about Neighborhood Watch. Just curious. What's your legal jurisdiction? What law enforcement capacity do you have? Legal authority? He repeated, clearly caught off guard. Well, we're just concerned citizens. So, no actual power to investigate anyone. Another awkward silence. Another call that ended fast. After going through Karen's entire network, it was obvious. She hadn't created a real governing body. She'd created a social club dressed up as a government, convincing bored neighbors that they had power they never actually had. That's when I realized this wasn't about rules or property values. It was about one woman trying to impose her will under the illusion of structure and legitimacy. So I made a choice. I wasn't just going to defend myself anymore. I was going to shine some light on what was happening. I started with a simple post on social media. Hey neighbors, just wondering, did anyone actually vote to give Priscilla Sterling authority over what we do on our own property? Because she's acting like an elected official, but I can't find any record of an election. Just curious. Within the hour, my phone lit up, but this time it wasn't Karen's squad. It was my actual neighbors. Ethan, this is Tom from Maple Street. Priscilla told me I couldn't build a shed without HOA approval. But if there's no HOA, hi, I'm Jennifer from Pine Avenue. She made me take down my bird feeders, said they were a nuisance. Are you telling me that wasn't legal? This is Dave from Oak Lane. That woman made me repaint my mailbox to match the community palette. You mean she had no right to do that? And just like that, it became clear Karen's rule had survived because no one had dared say, "Wait a second, says who?" But once someone did, the entire illusion began to crumble. Of course, Karen didn't take it lying down. By Thursday, the tone of the calls changed. People were angry. They'd been following Karen's rules for years, spending money and changing their lives to appease her. I spent $300 repainting my house, one neighbor told me, because she said my color choice wasn't compliant. She told me I couldn't plant roses, another said I needed a landscaping review. She made us take down my kid's basketball hoop, said it was a noise violation. And with every story, it became more obvious. Karen hadn't just overstepped. She deceived people. She created fake fees, made threats about legal action, used her so-called role to settle personal scores. And now that truth was spreading, people weren't just mad at her. They were mad at themselves for ever believing her. By Friday afternoon, I had 17 neighbors asking to meet. We decided on Saturday, right at my usual barbecue time. Because if you're going to talk about freedom, you might as well do it over grilled meat. Word spread fast. That evening, instead of a quiet cookout, I found myself surrounded by people, actual neighbors wanting to talk. First came Tom, the contractor. He brought his blueprints and unrolled them on my deck. She told me I needed architectural approval, he said. I've been waiting months. Tom, I said gently, there is no committee. There's just Karen. The look on his face said it all, like someone realizing the thing they were afraid of never actually existed. Then Jennifer came by, holding pictures of her bird feeders. Watching the birds was my favorite part of the day, she said. I just didn't want to cause problems. Jennifer, I told her, there's no HOA. Put your feeders back up. Then came Dave with a paint can, the exact blue he'd originally wanted for his mailbox. She gave me a binder of approved colors, he explained. Said anything else would hurt property values. That binder? She probably made it in Microsoft Word. Paint it whatever color you want. One by one, neighbors arrived, each with their own story of quiet compliance, of giving up something small because they believed Karen's pretend authority was real. And every single one of them had the same reaction. Relief, mixed with a kind of soft anger. I could have put my fence up 3 years ago. I didn't need permission to grow roses. I didn't have to remove my wind chimes. Yes to all of it. And here's the thing. When people realize they've been tricked, they don't just move on. They remember. The next Saturday, I grilled again, not because I was hungry, but because I had something to say. This is my land, my grill, my choice. Halfway through flipping chicken, I saw her, Karen. But she wasn't alone this time. She brought her loyal trio, Margaret, Bob, and Patricia, all with clipboards in hand. They lined up at my property line like some mock government delegation. Ethan Miller, Karen began, in her most official voice. By the authority vested in us by the Lakeview Estates Community Standards Council, we hereby serve you with a formal cease and desist. I looked at the paper. Lots of official words and legal-looking formatting. But it was nothing more than a prop. Karen, I said, flipping my chicken, we've already had this conversation. We most certainly have not, Margaret piped up. We're a duly constituted organization. Okay, I said, walking to the property line. By now, a few neighbors were clearly listening in. Tom was checking his mail. Jennifer was watering plants in slow motion. Dave was polishing the same spot on his car for the 3rd time. Margaret, I asked, do you have those incorporation documents I requested? She shuffled her papers. We're in the process of filing. So no, it's complicated. Bob, what authority does Neighborhood Watch have? We report suspicious activity, he replied proudly. To who? The police. And the Homeowners Association. What Homeowners Association, Bob? Silence. Patricia, you've mentioned property values. Do you have any data showing barbecue smoke has harmed them? She looked startled. Well, no, but it's just common sense. Is it? And that's when Tom walked over, blueprints in hand. Karen, he said loudly, I'm building my shed. We're still reviewing your plans. Who is we? He asked, raising his voice just enough to reach every listening ear. There's no HOA. There's no authority. Just you pretending. Jennifer chimed in. I put up all my bird feeders. The funny thing is our neighborhood is more of a true community now than it ever was when Karen was pretending to be in charge. Turns out, when people feel free to enjoy their own space without someone breathing down their neck, they're not just happier, they're more connected. And happy neighbors? They make for good neighbors. Tom finished building his shed, and now he's always offering tools to anyone who needs them. Jennifer's bird feeders bring so many colorful birds that folks walk by just to admire them. Dave's bright blue mailbox? It's caught on. 3 others have painted theirs in fun, bold colors, and now our street looks vibrant, alive, not like the dull uniform block Karen was trying to enforce. Kids are back outside again, swinging, bouncing, running around from one backyard to the next. The guy with the motorcycle? He gives joyrides to kids. Only with their parents okay, of course. The garden gnomes have returned too, and as silly as they are, you'd be surprised how much a little smile like that can lift your day. We've even got an actual neighborhood watch now. Not some fake authority game like Bob tried to run, but real neighbors keeping an eye on each other's homes, helping out when someone's away, checking in when something seems off. And yes, I'm still grilling every Saturday. Some days it's just me. Other times there's a crowd, but it's always my decision. My time, my backyard, and no one's clipboard is telling me otherwise. As for Karen, she eventually moved away. Word is she found a place with a real HOA where she could use her passion for order in a more official capacity. Hopefully, this time, she learned the difference between helping a community and trying to control one. But every time I fire up the grill, I think back to that first run-in. One person tried to turn her personal preferences into the law of the land, and how easily everyone followed, just because she sounded like she had authority. It makes you wonder how many other Karens are out there doing the same thing. In neighborhoods, in buildings, online, telling people what they can or can't do on their own property, enforcing so-called rules that nobody actually voted for, pretending their opinion is the law. So here's what I've learned, and here's what I'd tell anyone. Next time someone tries to tell you can't do that on your own land, ask them 3 things. What's your legal authority? Where's the official paperwork? Who elected you? If they can't answer all 3 with real documents and real proof, then guess what? You're dealing with someone who's just confusing their personal preferences with actual laws. And in that case, you're well within your right to smile, nod, thank them for their opinion, and go right on doing your thing. Because this is America, and if you can't grill a hamburger in your own backyard without someone throwing a fit, well, that's not the kind of country we were meant to be. Although, hey, if you do find yourself in a federal lawsuit over a hamburger, please tell me about it. I'd love to hear that story. So yeah, that's how I kicked a fake homeowners association off my property. No lawyers, no lawsuits, just the truth, a little digging, and the radical idea that folks ought to mind their own business. If this story gave you the courage to stand up to your own neighborhood Karen, hit that like button and share your story in the comments. And if you think I'm wrong, and Karen was just trying to keep things nice and orderly, well, maybe you're a Karen too. Either way, remember this. Life is too short to let someone else dictate how you enjoy your backyard. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got burgers to flip. Oh, and one last thing. There's a twist to this story I haven't told you yet. So hit subscribe and ring that notification bell, because next week, I'm revealing exactly what Karen did when she found out this video went viral. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support helps us tell more powerful stories that matter. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and never stop seeking the truth.